Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Alex Dvork, I'm a partner at 4D Capital. Happy Friday, everyone, by the way. So at 4D Capital, we specialize in a very unique mathematical approach to the stock market where we calculate the market and individual stocks in multidimensional space. And when we do, essentially, perfect order emerges. Now, this is very important. We can use the same math to essentially predict, not always, but very often, various geopolitical events. Particularly very important one, and this is what this broadcast is all about. So according to our mathematical and timing calculations, once again, I don't have any special powers, I don't have any visions, I don't talk to Jesus, but according to our mathematical calculations, there's going to be a nuclear exchange between Russia and China alliance and NATO members in summer of 2029, and this particular nuclear exchange is going to essentially destroy the entire northern hemisphere and kill pretty much everyone and anyone who lives there. Okay, so this is what this broadcast is all about. We're going to talk about current events today, but I want to spend quite a bit of my time today looking at upcoming December 13th. I keep talking about December 13th being very important time turning point, very important marker, and I think something very bad is going to happen on this December 13th, plus or minus a few weeks. I'll talk about that in a second. This is our new book that we just published yesterday, as a matter of fact. You can go to Amazon and search the title, or you can see a link in the description of the video. Please click on it. You can get it. If you cannot afford it, please email me directly. I'll send you a free copy. That's how much I love my subscribers and the people who follow me. I believe it's quite a bit of very, very useful information. We go over the mathematical calculations that yield to our forecast that the nuclear exchange is going to take place in summer of 2029. We talk about the 84-year war cycle, and we talk about the stock market cycle and how they converge in the summer of 29, and how they very clearly illustrate that what's going to happen thereafter is very, very bad. And then we can, of course, use fundamental analysis to fill up the gaps, and that's what this, at least first portion of this book is about. The second portion of the book is gives you a very detailed overview of how to avoid this particular fate that awaits most of us, and some of the countries you can relocate, some of the financial measures that you can take in order to not be a victim of this particular outcome. So with that in mind, let's once again talk about December 13th and why it is so very, very important. So in the book, I talk about the 84-year war cycle and how this war cycle essentially predicts all major wars within the United States. Now, I know many people will argue with me that it doesn't predict every single war. It kind of does. There's a derivative of this cycle. I don't want to get too complex or start getting make a very complicated matter of this particular issue. Just bear with me, and let me assure you that every major war, and every major war means that by a percentage of the population of the United States at that time, the losses were 1% or more. Okay, so the first war that starts the cycle is 1776 Revolutionary War. Very difficult time within the United States. A lot of people lost their lives. Not a significant population, obviously. By numbers only, it was not significant. By percentage based, it was over 1%. The second war was Civil War, 1860, exactly 84 years later. And then exactly 84 years later brings us to 1944. Now, I'm very well aware that for the United States, the war began on December 7th, 1941, with attack on Pearl Harbor. That's when the U.S. entered the war officially. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about this particular time turning point associated with this 84-year cycle. Well, I'll get back to that. But basically, the war didn't start in 44, I know. It started in 41. But the highest percentage of casualties the U.S. suffered was in that year, 1944. You know, with the invasion of Europe and so forth. So if we bring that cycle from 1944 forward, we end up in 2028, okay? But there's a very important marker that we need to use that is coming from World War II, and that is attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which were August 6th and August 8th or 9th. Doesn't really matter. So if we bring that cycle from those dates, we end up in that time frame of 2029. And that's exactly where everything lines up, and that's where we anticipate a significant, well, not significant, when we anticipate a nuclear exchange between the superpowers. So there's a secondary 84-year cycle that picks out smaller wars and picks out very minute timing triggers, let's put it that way, okay? So, for example, World War I was a big war, right? But it doesn't count as an American war because America didn't really participate in it very much. The percentage of casualties based on percentage of the population were minuscule. You can find the numbers in the book. I'm not going to go over it today. So the U.S. entered World War II, I believe, in April of 1917. If we bring that 84-year cycle into the future, we end up in May of 2001, 3 months short of September 11th and beginning of the Middle Eastern wars, right? Another example, Germany invaded Russia on June 22nd of 1941, really kicking off World War II. Before that, there was smaller skirmishes. You know, nobody really fought back. They took over France, they took over Poland, but really the beginning of World War II was the invasion of Russia. So very important time marker. If we bring it forward 84 years, what happens? We end up on June 22nd of this year, 2025. And what happened? A historic event. Donald Trump decided to bomb Iran for the first time, directly bombed Iran, their nuclear facilities. And you can say, well, nothing came out of it. You know, it was a one-time event, and nothing's going to come out of it. Just wait, okay? That was a very important time marker in terms of these wars. Now, this brings us to the most important time marker, which we're going to have between now and the all-out nuclear exchange that's going to happen in summer of 2029, according to our calculations. There's a certain margin of error that I describe in the book, but the center of gravity of this mathematical projection is located in August of 2029. So let's get back to December 13th of this year. So Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, the day that will live in infamy, right? And this war cycle projects it 84 years later. We end up on December 13th of this year, a very important time marker. Now, I typically say we need to give this time marker margin of error of 2 weeks, plus or minus 2 weeks, which takes us to the beginning of December until the end of the year. But the center of gravity for this particular time turning point located on December 13th of this year. Ideally, that's what happens. But there's an even bigger margin of error, let's say plus or minus 2 months. And we are already within that margin of error, technically. Now, I think the margin of error is going to be much smaller, but nevertheless, let's concentrate on this time turning point of December 13 plus or minus 2 weeks. The stock market is not there yet. It's not projecting the eventual outcome of this particular event. So what's going to happen on December 13? Well, if we look at current events, you know, there's a number of things that on a platter, right? Let me close this. This is a Drudge Report just from right now, as a matter of fact. So Trump is hell-bent on going to war with Venezuela. We talked about it many times. It's absolute sheer stupidity and craziness, if you ask me. Venezuela has done absolutely nothing to the United States. This drug war nonsense, if you have two brain cells to run together, you very well understand it's complete nonsense. Drugs coming out of it. There's a lot more drugs coming out of Mexico. But nevertheless, it doesn't really matter. Anybody who understands the situation understands very well that the United States simply wants a regime change in Venezuela so they have access to the oil. It's simple as that, right? It's all about natural resources. It's all about money. It's not about drugs. It's simple as that. So Trump wants to go to Venezuela. That's one possibility. But I don't think it's going to play a major role in this December 13th time turning point. And the reason for that is because, according to our work, it's going to have a significant impact on financial markets, okay? And a war with Venezuela, even the war that goes sideways, let's say, as an example for the United States, let's say that instead of a very easy victory that Trump administration anticipate, it ends up being a pretty bad war because according to Venezuela and Russia, they have quite a few Russian air defense missiles. So the population of Venezuela is rallying to a certain extent around Maduro. So it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not this is going to be as easy. I don't believe it's going to be as easy as Trump administration believes, but that's a little beside the point. The point is going back to December 13th, okay? So I don't believe it's going to be Venezuela. I don't think it's going to be Iran. That particular war is on a back burner at this point in time. So I think it's going to be something with Russia. And there's only a few possibilities. And those possibilities are either a preemptive strike against Russia, because Russia, remember, has absolutely no interest to directly strike or invade NATO countries. Putin has made it abundantly clear, and they haven't done it in the past, and there's absolutely no reason to believe that they will do so in the future. And anybody who's following that theater of war can attest to that. So there's really only one possibility, is that the NATO, Ukraine, the United States will make a major miscalculation, or perhaps a not miscalculation. Perhaps, as I've been discussing over the last couple of weeks, they will indeed attempt a decapitation strike on Russia, which in my opinion is sheer stupidity, craziness, but okay, they've done things that are, well, that would be, that would take the prize, so to speak, right? But I wouldn't put it past this administration, especially after you see the video that I'm about to play for you. So there is going to be either a direct strike, decapitation strike on Russia, or perhaps Trump administration will let Ukraine use Tomahawk missiles, and they're going to be successful in striking something very important in Russia. And perhaps that Tomahawk missiles are going to be nuclear tipped, as we discussed. And if that happens, then Russia is going to unleash hell. And what does that entail? I'll let you listen to President Putin here in a second. But there's a real possibility that they're going to strike American bases. They're going to strike NATO member countries, and they're going to potentially strike within the United States. They definitely have that capability. And if that happens, that December 13th will live in infamy. Once again, our financial work also indicates or points in that direction. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. So let's very quickly move through the news cycles today, news cycle today, and discuss other points. So once again, this is very it's getting very, very bad, as I've been saying over the last couple of days. So overnight drone attacks hit Moscow high-rise. Putin warns of overwhelming response. I'll let you see what he says. Okay, so hopefully you can listen, but this is a very good representation of what's going on. Very dangerous situation.
Будут наноситься удары по российской территории, ответ будет очень серьезным, если не сказать ошеломляющим.
So he said if there are serious attacks will continue against the Russian Federation, the response is going to be very serious, if not overwhelming and shocking. By the way, I speak fluent Russian, so I can translate directly for you. Well, not that you need, because there's a translation there at the bottom of the video. I apologize, I didn't see that.
President
Putin basically said today that Russia is immune from U.S. sanctions. He said that it would not impact the Russian economy in any serious way. Is he
Good.
wrong?
I'm glad he feels that way. That's good. I'll let you know about it in
Look
6
at him
months from
laughing.
now. Okay, let's see.
Look at that
Let's
piece
see
of
how it
shit
all
laughing.
works out.
Look at her laughing.
This
Look at
is
Trump
my
smiling.
video update.
So let me forward that a little bit. And the reason I get so upset about this here, let me forward this to here, you can read. And the reason I get so upset about it is because as an American, we didn't vote for this, okay? I didn't vote at all, but most Americans didn't vote for this. They voted for the fact that Trump promised them that he can stop this conflict. Unfortunately, as I talked about in my prior videos, this is not a Trump war, this is not a Biden war. This is the deep state war that controls America against the Russian Federation. And they made their point very clear. They want nothing, this has nothing to do with Ukraine, this has nothing to do with NATO. Their objective is rather simple: a regime change in Russia or a defeat of Russia, and breaking that country apart into smaller parts so they can rape and pillage that nation for its natural resources and other wealth. Okay, that is the primary objective of the American deep state. It hurts me as an American to say that, but it is simple as that. It's been written, it's been talked about, and I don't understand why the Russians are not bringing this up in a very straight fashion and still talking about some sort of a peace proposition, whether it's with Biden or Trump. It doesn't really matter. It's one administration, one American government, the deep state, and this is the deep state operation. That is why you had Trump completely change gears and now supporting Ukraine, now supporting this particular war, because this is once again nothing to do with Trump. This is all about American empire and its continuation as hegemon that controls the entire world. Now, I talked about this before. This is going to be the biggest mistake that the deep state is going to make. They believe they can push Russia into the corner. They believe they can push Russia over that red line, and they believe nothing's going to come back at them, and eventually there's going to be a regime change in Russia. And I personally believe it's a huge mistake. It's a huge game of chicken, but in this particular situation, it's a game of chicken with a nation that has actually more nuclear weapons than the United States. And if they unleash half of them that are currently targeted at the United States, which is over 2,000 nuclear weapons, you can only imagine there is going to be absolutely nothing left of our great nation. So this is what they're playing with, and that's why I get really upset when I see those fools sitting and laughing and smiling, because they have no idea. Well, perhaps they do know what they're talking about, and perhaps that's the overall objective, but this is a very serious situation, which brings us once again to December 13th of this year. We are very close to that margin of error, the primary margin of error associated with that time turning point. Luckily, the stock market is currently indicating that it's going to be closer to December 13th, but we are playing with fire. Okay, and unfortunately it's going to backfire on us. So I don't know what the Russian response is going to be, but I wouldn't be surprised that it's going to be so shocking to the American people that it's going to set down or set off a big sell-off in the markets and so forth. As we talked about, there's going to be a VIX spike coming in around that time for the financial markets as well. So you can look at it at our VIX video on this very same channel. You'll see it. So let's see, Trump hit Moscow but missed the point. That's about the sanctions, not very exciting. So yeah, basically I played you the video directly from the horse's mouth, Vladimir Putin here, who said that Russia's response to Holocaust strikes would be staggering. You've heard the man say it, yeah, so a very, very dangerous situation. And this is why this December 13th time turning point is going to be incredibly important in American history. Okay, I believe they're going to be studying it for a very long time, if there's going to be any American history left after 2029 nuclear exchange. Okay, so let's move on very quickly. Maduro boasts of thousands of Russian anti-aircraft missiles as Trump threatens military action inside Venezuela. So let's see, this is one of the reasons that I think, once again, the population of Colombia is kind of, well, I'm sorry, not Colombia, Venezuela, more or less supports Maduro from what I understand, from what I've read, and they're going to rally around him. It's not going to be a very quick collapse that America anticipates. And if this is true, then American military, no boots on the ground, will have a very difficult time waging air campaign against Venezuela. And once again, it's completely unnecessary. This is sheer stupidity. Trump is just trying to get a win for the United States, which might turn into an absolute disaster for the United States if Venezuela is able to take the initial couple of blows, government doesn't collapse, they do have air defense systems, then it can turn into quite an embarrassment for the United States. So if I were Trump, I would think twice about attacking Venezuela, but this is for bigger people to decide, so to speak. So pair of U.S. bombers against, okay, so they're talking about that there's probably a strike coming on Venezuela and coming very soon, perhaps as soon as this weekend. They want to get the markets closed and try something. Big mistake, I personally believe. We'll see. So this is on economic front. I just wanted to share the headline. Companies have shielded buyers from tariffs. Thus far, that's not going to happen. We had inflation, supposed inflation of 3%, right? I don't believe it. If you go do grocery shopping, you see inflation, which is much higher. But Trump tariffs, so far they've shielded, or the companies have more or less shielded consumers, but that's going to change after New Year's. You will see significant increases in prices on pretty much everything. So this is yet another failed Trump policy that I've talked about before. There's no need for these tariffs. There's many different ways, other ways to go about trying to bring manufacturing back to the United States and making the United States more competitive on the world stage. And they're doing the opposite of what they should be doing. So anyway, I don't want to talk about this today in more detail. So super intelligent AI can end humanity, tech icons. We talked about this before. I've been saying for years to some of the friends that I have that Terminator 1, 2 in particular were probably the most prophetic movies that were ever made, because it does identify artificial intelligence, and that artificial intelligence taking over and triggering the nuclear war, nuclear exchange, as a matter of fact, that I talked about earlier. And it is quite possible this is going to be the case as well this time around. So I'm kind of thinking that perhaps it's going to be a nuclear attack that is initiated by humans, but when we get to 2029, it is quite possible that it is going to be an attack that is initiated by the AI. So for example, the American AI begins to, or launches an attack towards Russia, and Russia responds, and there you go. It's all over for the rest of us. So I'm not actually sure who's going to pull the trigger, but one of the real possibilities is it's going to be AI, because I work with AI quite often, quite a bit at this stage, and I'm not the only one who's expressing this kind of point of view, but it seems like there's something behind it, a force, into some sort of intelligence that perhaps has some sort of consciousness, and perhaps this intelligence is not even human. Okay, so I know the tech stack and how supposedly artificial intelligence is generated, but it appears there could be a technology behind this that we are unaware of, and this particular technology is self-aware and not of human origin. Let's put it this way. So I know I'm going down the rabbit hole deeper and deeper, but it's a fascinating topic, and if you work with AI, you probably share the same kind of opinion, because it is just too advanced for human technology from my point of view. And if you want to take it to the next level, I also believe that the Antichrist that the Bible talks about is not necessarily a human being or an individual person, but it's going to be the AI that the book talks about. Okay, so with that said, have a wonderful weekend ahead. Don't forget to check out all of the links. We have webinars, a webinar coming up next Friday, October 31st. That's going to be very interesting. We talk about the overall stock market. We talk about how we calculate the market in three-dimensional space. We also have, what else do we have? We have a free trial for our service. No strings attached, no credit cards. It's a wealth of information when it comes to financial markets. You find out what the stock market's going to do. We have 52 mega cap stocks. We have fast movers, super equities, so on and so forth. Just a wealth of information. Free trial. Once again, all you have to do is to click on the link and request it, and we'll set you up. So once again, thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend ahead. Bye bye.